Hey, welcome back. I'd like to talk about slogans and how they can adjust and frame our thinking in many different ways so that we shutter out any critical thoughts or any information that we might not like to encounter. People do not live by bread alone. They live mostly by catchphrases, said George Creel, the head of America's propaganda department during World War I. Slogans or catchphrases are like thought stoppers. They just immediately arrest any kind of critical thinking or access to outside information or ideas that we don't really want to encounter. In some sense, they might be a bit like stepping stones on a pond. We can jump from one slogan to the next without getting ourselves wet with reality, so to speak. And slogans can often become pre-packaged for us. We hear them, we understand the message or the intent, and it resonates with us, so we respond with that slogan on occasion, and then it becomes reinforced in our mind. Now, we might think that we have demonstrated or proven a point, but when we use slogans, all we're really doing is reinforcing our own belief system and attempting to protect it from anything outside of the dogma or ideology that might challenge it. Jehovah's Witnesses use slogans to preach to others, to condemn outsiders, to reaffirm their own understanding of world events, and to deflect criticism of their beliefs. Now, I'm going to go through 5. There are many slogans that witnesses use in their dogma, but I'm going to go through 5 that I think are very important. Okay, so let's get into it. Okay, number 1, I've searched through all religions. I've heard this said on many occasions. It usually comes up when a witness is speaking to someone in the preaching work to explain why they converted to the religion, or it will occur when a witness is speaking to an ex-witness or a weak witness to kind of reaffirm to them that there's nothing outside the JW dogma, that no other religion can offer anything whatsoever. They're all just artificial and fake and full of superstition. Now, when a witness says that, they usually will mean one of two things. One, that they've read the Mankind Search for God book, which is a Watchtower publication that goes through other religions to just dismiss them all and then lead a person inexorably to the truth of the JW dogma. Now, that's the best case scenario. The worst case scenario, when someone says, I've searched through all other religions, they're merely parroting the idea that because no other religion teaches exactly what Jehovah's Witnesses teach, then they know these other religions are wrong because they're not teaching the truth according to the Jehovah's Witness teaching. So this slogan fills a person with a false sense of understanding and knowledge. I've searched through all other religions and I have found the one true one. Now, where that information is coming from really is irrelevant to them. It's the slogan that's important. I have searched through all religions. The fact is they haven't. And most people, when they say that, would not be able to answer even the most trivial questions about other religions. The second slogan, what are you offering me? This is also something you'll encounter when a witness is having a discussion with someone who seems to know more than they do. Or when a witness is expressing doubts about the dogma, they will say, what are you offering me? And this is an extremely transactional statement. It reveals to a large extent what is motivating that person to be in the religion. As if the only reason to believe in the religion or the beliefs is because there's something in it for them. What are you offering me? Are you offering more than everlasting life in paradise? Well, I'm not going to listen to you then. As if the mere fact that you can invent a fictional outcome is an appropriate reason to believe that something is true. This would be like negotiating with a terrorist who wants to blow themselves up, and you try and convince them that what they're doing is wrong, and they say, "What are you offering me? I'm going to go to heaven and be with 70 virgins. Can you top that?" I mean, it's exactly the same kind of irrational, blinkered mindset that is just almost impossible to speak with. I remember almost 10 years ago now, when I first started doubting the dogma, two elders came to visit me, and within 10 minutes of the discussion, I had just asked them a couple of questions. I can't even remember what they said, but they said something, and I just threw out a very simple but direct question, and the elder's immediate response was, "What are you offering me?" Which just struck me as so bizarre, because they came to my home and they were trying to help me return to the truth, and I just asked a very, very simple but direct question, and he just immediately bounced back, "What are you offering me?" Which, how do you respond to that? There's no response you can give to someone who asks you that question that's going to satisfy them. Okay, slogan number 3, human wisdom. Now, Jehovah's Witnesses will show complete disdain for anything that demonstrates the fallacy of their belief system or that criticizes the Bible. They just label it all human wisdom. And what they really do here is they take their dogma, they then equate what the governing body says with the Bible, because the governing body are the only ones who can understand the Bible, according to witnesses. And if they're the only ones who can understand the Bible, then they're the only ones who can understand God. And God's wisdom, of course, is superior to man's wisdom. So in other words, their dogma is God's wisdom. And anything that challenges that or shows it to be deficient or backward or in error has to be wrong. It has to be misleading, or not in possession of the full facts. There's just something defective or degenerate in human wisdom. And so anything outside the organization that doesn't agree with the dogma is just, we can ignore that. It has no value. We have God's wisdom. Number 4, even if it wasn't the truth, it's still the best way of life. I've heard this on several occasions. Someone is just so elated, so happy, so content in their situation within the organization, they let this thing just slip out. This is just so great. I'm having a great life. I'm so happy. Even if this wasn't the truth, I'd still live it out because it's the best way of life. Now, this is a slogan that is not peculiar to Jehovah's Witnesses. In fact, many of these slogans are really quite common in high control groups. Stephen Hassan, in his book Combating Cult Mind Control, said, "Although cult members will often say, 'Show me a better way and I will quit,' they are not allowed the time or given the mental tools to balance the evidence for themselves." So a person who thinks, well, I don't really care if it's true or not, it makes me happy, in some sense, they are actually getting to some kind of kernel of truth about their own inner motivations, even if they don't realize it or not. What they're saying is, I'm really unconcerned about what's true. This doesn't really matter to me all that much. What matters is how I am feeling in this moment. What matters is my own sense of importance and being part of this big drama that's unfolding that is giving my life purpose day to day. And it shows to some extent an emptiness inside them that they can't fill themselves, that they need this structure of belief and guidance and purpose artificially given them by someone else in order to fill that hole in themselves. And finally, number 5, and this is my favorite, the best slogan of all is the truth. Jehovah's Witnesses call their belief system the truth, and it's just a slogan. the witnesses have a dogma, okay? It's an unquestionable set of beliefs. That is the definition of a dogma. The word truth or true isn't so simple, right? It's actually a bit of a complicated issue to say, well, what is truth? It's a big, deep question. In fact, one of the most interesting questions in the Bible is when Pontius Pilate says to Jesus, what is truth? Because it's not obvious, but a very kind of simplistic way of saying what is the truth is to say, well, what is reality? If we say something is true, we're saying to some extent that this thing maps onto reality in a neat way, okay? That despite the fact that it might be frayed a little bit at the edges, there's a very good correspondence to this idea and what in fact is taking place, or what in fact is real, okay? Now, the witnesses call their belief system the truth when it's a dogma, but by calling it the truth, they then conflate the two. Okay? They're calling their dogma the truth. So if somebody disagrees with them, they're disagreeing with the truth. They're disagreeing with reality. If someone opposes them, they're opposing truth. They're opposing reality. I mean, no one can say in any... It's hard to say that, well, okay, yes, I'm opposing the truth, I'm opposing reality, and then to claim that what they're saying is a good thing or a beneficial thing. Almost everyone you speak to will say, yes, what is true is good. Having beliefs that correspond with reality is the best way to approach life. And so by conflating the word truth with their own dogma, it just allows them to internalize this idea that any opposition they get, any pushback on their beliefs that they get, any pushback on their behaviors or practices or their organizational procedures, all of this is tied up with the word the truth. So if that is criticized in any way, the person must be deliberately opposing what's true and what's real. And nobody likes someone who is deceptive or trying to tear down what's true and useful. And that's why the word the truth and calling your belief system the truth is really a stroke of genius. If you're trying to, start a religion and get people involved and committed to it. But if, of course, it's just a fallible dogma, just full of holes and logical fallacies and non sequiturs and emotive conjugates, then calling it the truth really is quite damaging and pernicious. Okay, so thanks for watching. That's all I have for this video, and I'll see you next time.